Thank you.
I'll see you guys
We
later.
appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.
That is the worst sheriff I've ever seen.
Yeah. He's leveraged so far gone. I mean, these assholes could probably make him dance if they wanted. This is ridiculous.
What's gonna happen if we put him $10 million in debt?
The evil corporate overlords will probably pay it off, and then he'll be their lackey for all time.
All right, what do we do about this?
Well, Crane, your big issue was just the fact that they're not defaulting on them, essentially.
Yeah, look, I don't give a shit if we default on people. If that's how we want to do it, then so be it. Fine. That's what I came into. That's what I was told how things work, and I'll continue doing that if that's how things should work. But if we're gonna default on people, it needs to be, like fucking equal. If you get defaulted, you get defaulted. None of this like you get defaulted, but it was, gambling with your friends at the casino. It's fucking crazy. I defaulted on, probably 15 different people every time I do that. And out of those 15, I probably get calls from 50 to 75% of them the day after being like, why'd you default on me with some sob story about, their cousin or whatever the fuck. And, I'd tell them the same thing. You had time, you had notice, you had warning, you had all these different things. It is what it is. You took out the loan, you were responsible, you pay the consequence. But if we're not going to issue the consequence, then we run into some problems.
Well, what is the consequence for a person that does not care about money? Or is this Irvin Dundee, as you said? This man, he lives a life with a large debt.
I feel like that's a separate issue.
Well, it culminates from the same area, no?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, but,
If someone has a negative net worth, they are literally a burden to this state. And I'm not here to give handouts. So we need to deal with them too, but maybe not in this conversation.
Yeah, we can do that another time.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you reached out to Senator W and I about the defaulting shit, so we can figure out something with the negative bank accounts another time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the defaulting thing, do we want regulation for these loan companies? Do we need legislation, or do we think the current system of just defaulting is fine? It just needs to be enforced.
But the thing is, we do have private corporations representing the state.
Well, we have private corporations that are borrowing the state's funding, right?
It is insured though, so it's not necessarily a bad thing. But we also don't want private corporations taking advantage of their position.
And that's kind of what it seems. So I think I get where Crane's coming from is the fact that these private corporations are, quite frankly, picking and choosing who they default on. That is a very big issue.
Is this a common thing or is this new?
So here's the other issue. I don't know, and I can't tell you because I don't have confidence that the loan companies default on everyone when they should. Meaning,
I see.
Pred pointed out how his loan was defaulted on much later than it should have been. I'm not privy to that information until the defaults get filed on the docket and the contracts are posted. So the loan company could be sitting on a ton of loans that they could have defaulted, but they just haven't, based on who the people are. I don't know.
So, let me ask eine kleine Frage, a small question, jawohl. Why is there a problem with making the defaults automatic by the banking company? No? Instead of relying on these people with relationships and knowing this or that, make them automatic. When the line is over, it's crossed, it's done.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I get what Senator W is saying is the problem large enough that we have to take an extremely hard line like you're talking about Cryptoffer. Uh, it's a possibility, but
Well, the question I'm asking is, what are the issues with doing that?
You know, I agree with that, actually. If so, we're in fear here that we have a government official being leveraged by people that aren't upholding a contract, essentially, right?
Jawohl.
So that could be some regulation there that if it's in the contract, then the state and the banks can automatically work on behalf of the loan company to avoid this leverage issue. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it kills the other side of it, which is sometimes there might be like a legitimate reason why the person couldn't pay it back on time. But I don't know.
Well, a time limit is a time limit. No, are we going to start traveling through time? If they have agreed to the contract and they cannot abide to it, surely they should be punished.
At that point, what's the point in a loan company though? Just have someone sign some paper.
Automated system, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I thought this was the ladies' room.
What?
Well, the system would only be
What the hell was
automated
that?
on the collecting part if they are not competent to do it by themselves.
I think she said something about she thought this was the ladies' room.
I guess I'm
She
saying
said
is
she
like
thought this was the ladies' room.
in the current way it's handled, someone essentially could come up to the courthouse, sign a piece of paper, get the money. If it's not paid back, their bank account is automatically deducted, right? Like, it could just be automated in that system. But then we put 2 private loan companies out of business.
Well, not exactly. There are still work to be done in analyzing the economy of the people that are being loaned to.
But isn't that the point? This system lacks that regulation in the sense that the state is so insured that it will get it back no matter what.
Well, I believe the error with the system is the human error. Relationships, all these people do favors. Now, why would you do a favor to someone if you know they are going to get, as they say, fucked for it later on? If the collecting is automated but the issuing is not, then I think that would solve some of the issues. We could also layer it on with doing so that a person cannot go below debt, meaning you would not collect below the zero roof.
But then
We already discussed this. It would be pointless at that point.
wouldn't you be stuck in this? Like, if someone has $1 to their name, you'd be stuck in this like catch-22 where you can't get your money back because we have a law preventing negative, but they have no incentive to pay or make any money because all they do is give it back to the state anyway.
Well, maybe they shouldn't have taken the loan in the first place.
That's an advantageous system for those people, though.
And you know what? If that person didn't take the loan, that would be great. But the fact of the matter is, these people are taking loans and they can't pay them off, and the state needs the money back.
Yeah, there's also, I mean, there is some like, commerce and industry occurring surrounding all this too. I had to cut him off because I was dealing with this issue over the last few days. But Eddie Marshall, who owns the tuner shop, he came to me about apparently he got a business approved or it's in the process of getting approved as like a repo business. So he wants to basically, like, as we were discussing, if people go in the negative, take their shit. And if the defaulting becomes automatic and if they go in the negative, I guess then he could still take their shit, but maybe we should take their shit first. I don't know what order.
I guess it would essentially be a repo company for those that are in the negatives, right? Like your job your job is to recover the funds from those that have negative bank balance.
But then it becomes this thing where they do the Dundee song and dance where we got this problem of if you have a key to someone's house and they park their $3 million cars in the driveway, you get to drive their cars.
Yeah,
And
I
so
do think
people-
that I do think that is a bit of an issue to be
Well,
to be frank.
it could be like
That
a
could-
two-pronged thing then, right? Let's say you have 6 weeks of the repo company has 6 weeks to find the money. Otherwise, the person that's in the negative just goes to prison. You know, could be something like that.
Oh, jawohl.
That'd be interesting.
What about this? What if you are in heavy debt, you can only wake up in the hotel in Palito? We remove any other housing location, make it into a poverty state.
And it is a shithole.
It is a shithole, and nobody else up there anyway. So why not just collect all the disgusting people on the earth up there?
And then we can put like state borders so they can't leave.
Jawohl, jawohl. You are in heavy debt, no lending cars, no waking up anywhere else. It's motel in Palito for you. Fix everything. Well, not everything, but some things.
So with this situation in particular, with the $3 million and $10 million loans, how do we want to handle it then? That is the main thing that we were trying to figure out, right?
Well, I think
It
Yeah,
seems
I
like
don't- I
the
don't know.
loans definitely need regulation in some capacity.
absolutely, yeah.
What if we build the companies and then it's up to the companies to get the money back from the individuals later on?
No, because it's state money.
And no, it's
Oh,
state money,
jawohl,
and
that's
because
richtig.
they also, you know, they take their feet, and that's the other thing that's weird here is these fucking assholes at Diamond Hand. I was reading their breakdown. They take like 10% in legal fees, but the entirety of their legal process is just posting their contracts on the docket and having me bill someone.
Yeah, I mean that's a corporation taking advantage of a system. You know, we need to. That's exactly what
Yeah.
regulation should be for.
So, I guess like Crane, you don't see an issue with how the defaulting works now, but just if it's enforced and regulated properly,
I mean, it's not a perfect system, but you know, it's
it
functional.
works.
It's functional. I mean, it lets people take the risk, and if they fail the risk, they go to the negative. Everything after that, in terms of like how we handle the negative, you know, I like Cryptoffer's idea there of, you know, Polito Motel, things like that. Like, we can discuss all that later, right? But at the very least, we have to figure out how we make sure that these loans are being enforced across the board.
Okay.
If the company gets to pick and choose who they default on, it turns into basically a game they're playing with the state's money for their own power and influence.
Well, wouldn't the short-term answer to solve this
Shit.
$10 million and $3 million
We've been foiled.
situation be to default on them? Tell the company
Crane's
that,
gotta go,
okay,
boys.
we want the state's money back, and that we are going to default on the loan. We are going to collect the $10 million, $3 million for the state. Now, in the long term, I feel like we should be regulating the loans because there is literally no regulation here.
Yeah, I think there should be some kind of regulation and limit. Like, I mean, how do you know other banks and companies do it? They, you know, there's like some kind of rigid system, so it's not pick and choose, right? It's like you need to have, you know, X amount of money coming in per month, or you need to be able to prove you have like X amount of money in your account liquid. Like, you need to have like 20% of the total loan or 10% of the total loan available. Because, God, I mean,
It could be
was issued-
perhaps. It could be perhaps looked at differently here too. The state was very generous after the financial crisis because people needed money, right?
Yeah.
It could be kind of like a sliding scale now where the state will do up to say 500,000 and then the company has to put the rest up for that loan, you know? So then they're taking their own risks too. Does that make sense?
That'd be interesting.
So if that was in place, for example, and we had this Pred situation who has $13 million in loan, the state would only be liable for the 500K, and then the company would be liable for the rest. And I am almost positive they're not going to give Pred $13 million of their own money.
Right.
Yeah,
especially
that's
if the
actually
state
not.
isn't
That's
going
actually
to
a pretty
yoink it
good
back
idea.
for them.
Yeah, 500K makes sense because that I think most people could buy most things they need with a 500K loan. I think people what they're doing right now is they're taking out, multi-million-dollar loans to try to buy something that's so far outside their means that they don't really have a good chance of paying it back.
Yeah, I think
Correct.
that's good because, like you said, the loan company's not going to be out here giving fucking $10 million loans to Sheriff Kyle Pred now if you do it that way.
And he was in here. He blatantly said he took the money to gamble. Right? No one's going to be stupid enough to give their own money to a gambling addict to gamble. Right?
So yeah, I mean the only issue would, well, the only issue would be if they start to do if they start to try to do the loophole of 5 different loans, all of 500K, with all state money.
They already did that. The first 4 or 5 loans to Pred were 999, 999.
Well, maybe it should
And
be
then-
total outstanding per individual should be 500K across all loan companies. Like they can only leverage 500K of the state's money per individual at any given time. So let's say someone takes a 500K loan and the loan company puts up 250,000 of it by themselves. That means that individual can still get 250,000 from the state on a separate loan, but they have a total cap.
Yeah, that could work.
The problem is, if we feel like, Davis? I guess the issue is still, though, someone could leverage an individual like Pred with their own money if they feel like that investment is worth it. Like if these corporate people feel like a 10 million loan is worth the leverage, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Pred's situation is so unique.
Is it really though?
Yeah, I guess, is it? Do we know?
Because you have, well, we take the Dundee situation again, is essentially the exact same thing, but is a criminal instead of a police officer. This man, he makes a police officer's salary. This criminal obviously is in
Yeah.
that for a reason. It's just the same things, just two sides of the same coin.
Well, I mean, on the debt side, yeah. I just mean in terms of like the loan thing. I think this is the first time I've seen loans of this scale. The most I default on people for is around the 1.3, 1.4 million mark, somewhere in there, maybe 1.7 up to 2 after fees, because they are typically with the extreme cases. What I see is someone gets issued like a $400,000 to $700,000 loan. They fail to pay it back on time. The loan company, which by the way, I don't know why this happens, but it does. The loan company then bridges them with a secondary loan of like 1.5 million or 1 million, which lets them pay off the first loan. But then half the time these people don't even pay off the first loan, so then they end up defaulting on both to the tune of like 2 to 2.5. But so when I say extreme, I just mean Pred's situation is so far, it's such an outlier. But in terms of the behavior, I get what you're saying, Senator Coyne. It does make sense.
I guess my question, based on what you have seen, is what do you want to do about the current loan companies and their practices?
In my perspective, I think I like your idea of the cap. I think there should be some limit. I don't think we should have people taking out multi-million-dollar loans and just literally, buying their tuner car or their mansion or whatever, and then struggling to scrape together money and then never being able to, and basically just then defaulting. I mean, half the time from what I have observed, they do this behavior of they know they're going to default, so they'll sell off whatever it is, the house, the tuner car, whatever, for cash, and just become one of these people in the negative and then use their friend's money or store it in some shared bank account or business account or whatever they do. Or they'll give the asset to their friend and then their friend will just, fund them through that for a long time. There's also been abuses with it where I know people who have gotten other people to take out a loan under the guise of working together, and then they sell the property out from under the loan holder and then use the cash to either buy other properties or leverage into more loans. Yeah. Overall, we need a cap, and we need something that prevents people sort of getting the no from mom and going to dad behind her back. You know what I mean? Like, the two companies have to talk to each other.
Yeah, I will say this. I don't know how exactly it'd be monitored across both the companies, but I think the idea that you came up with, Senator W, about a cap on the state money involved, but doing it per person, because my head popped. I don't know if you said that.
Yeah,
doing it per person instead of like per loan, I think would be so good. Because
mind speaking up a bit?
Yeah, but yeah, no, I think doing a loan cap per person with state money involved is definitely the way to go. Because having people having millions of dollars to one person from the state's money that they're obviously not going to pay is horseshit. So making the, let's say somebody takes out a $500,000 loan at Diamond Hand, all that money, state money. Let's say the next loan is, I don't know, fucking Diamond Hand again or Fast Loans. It's going to be all that company's money because they're already capped, right? On the state's money. I think that was a pretty good idea.
Definitely something we can think about. I'd like to. I think we need to do a deep investigation into these companies, their loans, their practices, figure out exactly what's going on. Like you said, Crane, you don't even know if they're presenting people that should be defaulted on time. And I think
what type of investigation? Do you want to get cops involved, or do you want?
Why don't we set coin loose on them?
We'll just look at the papers.
Yeah, what if we set coin loose on them?
Why don't we just have Cryptoffer here with his German efficiency go in there and check all their books and shit?
Well, what do you need me to look?
Well, we want to look at their loans, the history, their default
Fast
patterns.
Loans and Diamond Hand.
So you are looking for some type of ratio between how many loans are issued and versus how many are being consolidated and treated upon? No.
But also how many are being given preferential treatment in the sense that the default was not brought to us in time.
Well, yeah, I can do that.
I also want to do an audit of the citizens of the state and see who is...
How many are in the negative?
Yes, and also the assets they have access to and their values, including bank accounts.
Yeah. So here's I actually am completely on board with making penalties or having people go to prison if they're in debt. But if we do something like that, what is going to happen in the case of somebody like Kyle Pred that is literally a government employee and sheriff who is now in the debt?
Yeah.
Like that is a pretty big issue. And like, let's be honest, I feel like the most likely outcome of us getting the $13 million back is them getting defaulted on. So.
Oh, absolutely. I think if the due defaults, we should default on it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But I do think Crane's point is Pred is a special case. He's an official government employee who has admitted to be a gambling addict, taking loans from private corporations to enable that addiction. That in itself is a fucking problem.
$10 million willingly.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that's more than the PD as a unified police department get as a budget.
Well, shouldn't he realistically just go to jail, which will mean that he will lose his position within the government employment?
Well, that's the thing. There's ripple effects there, right? He said he has 200 employees. How many of those employees are loyal to Pred?
Yeah.
How many are loyal to the police department? How many are loyal to the
Basically,
state?
Pred should have never gotten to this point, and that's on us for not having legislation. This shouldn't have even been possible. So, in terms of like, fixing this, I don't think we can fix it by doing what we would do going forward, but I think we can fix it by, essentially, God, it just puts us in this weird position because if we default him, then he's going to get leveraged by the corporation. They're going to pay off his loan, and then he's under their thumb forever. If we don't default him, it completely belies the point of having any consequences for the loan system.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like he should be defaulted on.
Well, I have a question. If he does be defaulted on, and then is no longer negative bank balance, is there a legal route we can take there to investigate that and figure out if that leverage is a thing? And then prosecute.
I mean, IA is a thing, right? But God, I ain't ever seen them put together a worthwhile case. So,
Well, not necessarily just Pred, but individuals that may be leveraging him too.
So you're saying if you notice, let's say Pred and Gunner go 10 and 3 million into debt respectively, and then their debt gets wiped by certain people. Is that what you're saying? Seeing how their influence could.
Is there a legal route we can take to investigate whoever's paying that off with the leverage to punish them, or do we have no recourse there?
I mean, we only can. It's only reactive, right? So, like, if they pay off his debt, that's not illegal. If he works for them, that's not illegal. But if he does anything improper as a result of owing them, then that becomes the problem. And proving that is extremely difficult. But I mean, maybe that's just the world we're in.
Right, but the last thing we need is a sheriff leveraged by a corporation. That's pretty much like having a judge leveraged by a corporation. Right? It's a compromise beyond like recoverability.
Yeah, it shouldn't be happening. Well, okay, we got a lot to think about. I actually, unfortunately, have to take a plane out to another meeting.
Okay.
I appreciate your guys' time for coming in here. I think we've got a lot to think about. Mr. Coin here can look into Diamond Hand and Fast Loans in their books and figure out, the percentages we've been curious about.
Yeah. So in the
short term, see what I can do.
In the short term, are we making a decision on these defaulting?
If we default them today, Crane, do you think it will make ripple effects that we need to be more concerned about and take the time to think about? Or do we just take the money back?
I think we should think about it and give it a few days. I hadn't even considered the idea of the state just taking the money. The other interesting question with that is, if we do default on them when we take the money, do we just take our money, or do we also take the fees and stuff for Diamond Hand? Or do we make Diamond Hand collect their own fees and stuff, which presents another problem? So it gets very...
What is the status of the latest docket filing?
Everyone else has been defaulted except for Pred and Gunner.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the case, I feel like they should just be defaulted on.
I agree with Davis.
I don't want to show bias. I mean, it also makes the state kind of look bad if we're... I mean, granted, it's not our decision, right? But, like, let's say... But to be fair, let's say that the public did get a hold of... everybody but the sheriff got defaulted on and his lieutenant. That kind of would make the state look a little bad.
Problem here, too, is, like... And yes, we can just use the, like, Senate has ultimate power thing. But in terms of seizing the money, right, legally, there's no contracts between the state and Diamond Hand or the state and Fast Loans. There's no legislation. So, like, why are we taking it? I mean, I get it. It's our money. We want it now, right?
Right. It would be with senatorial approval, right?
It just have to be like a Senate action.
Which I'm
Yes,
fine
because
with.
and I'm fine with it too because we're owed the money as a state.
Yeah.
Cryptofer needs some more investment money, so.
I mean,
Yeah,
honestly, I think the cleanest thing to do, if we're just really going to be fucking serious about the whole thing, is the cleanest thing to do is just to bill Pred and Gunner, as we would with every other fucking person that, you know, gets defaulted on. Whatever happens from there with, you know, the leverage and all that, as Senator W said, we can investigate.
Yeah, that's something we're going to have to handle in time.
Yeah, that's something we're going to have to react to, and that's
Crane
just
is handing
how it's gonna
Cerberus
be, I think,
PD
but
to fucking.
I think we do
dude.
have to default them. I just want to let me just take a day and like think it through and make sure I'm not missing anything. So I don't want to give you guys the wrong advice or whatever, but
Yeah.
that's my like feeling pretty much certain.
Yeah, I'm willing to go with your judgment on this one, Crane. Honestly.
Yeah, if you want to think it over, I mean, honestly, I'll put some thought into it too. I don't see. I don't know. I don't see a situation in which we don't default on loans.
Yeah.
Well, I think I understand what you're saying, but we also have to consider our position here, where it may be on us to rescue a leveraged sheriff. Like, it may be that the state swallows a big loss in order to keep some semblance of control over our sheriff, rather than a corporation.
Yeah, that's another question: is do we just pay it?
I mean, Christoph really did say the simple thing: if our sheriff is being leveraged, we could get rid of him, though. Like, Christoph did really say the simple thing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we tried an
Senator
election,
W's
right?
right though. That's dangerous. Those people worship him. It's a fucking cult.
Yeah, the last election he won by a landslide, if I'm correct, right?
I think he won. Yeah.
Yeah, it's dangerous. Those people. I mean,
I think
he's got a fucking book that literally calls him the eternal sheriff.
Then the question I ask is, how long can it go before we
Yeah,
actually do
that's the
something?
worry there.
Yeah. Maybe you gotta
It's like is it really putting us in a situation where we're not going to default on somebody because he has a cult?
Well, it's not so much that. It's the fact that we could, as a state, forgive his indiscretions, and it'd be kind of like a calculated play, right? If we fear that our sheriff, who we can't really fire, is leveraged, then the easiest route out of that is for the state to just suck it up, pay it, and remove the two risks that we are facing, right? But a $13 million state fucking forgiveness is so far out there that it seems ludicrous to even say.
It's ludicrous to even
It
consider
also
that.
puts riots in the fucking streets
Yeah.
because every other person who's been defaulted on suddenly is like, where's my forgiveness? Especially people who got defaulted for like 50K.
What if we would rig the second sheriff election?
Sorry.
Oh, I mean, we didn't have to rig it.
Yeah, we rigged the
put
we
in
rigged
whoever
it,
they
yeah.
want.
We can just put in whoever you want. Yeah. I mean, the
yeah,
first
well,
sheriff election.
Well, if we rig it,
pick
it
whoever.
looks like he just didn't win naturally, and then there's no need for upset.
Right, but
Problem solved.
that's the thing is we'd have to rig it. The problem is this guy has followers like a cult, right? If I understand correctly. It's not that he's a good sheriff and people want him as a good sheriff. It's that if he started his own malicious state, he'd probably have a lot of fucking soldiers, right?
Yeah.
Sure, but I also agree with Christoph. Like, when is enough enough? You know what I mean?
Oh, I agree too. And like, he's got 2 cases on the docket. He owes us like nearly $15 million.
Yeah, and like I think my thing.
I think if we give him a pardon, he will feel like a god, and
Yep.
he has the right to feel that way.
Yeah.
And it will keep going longer, and then eventually we will have to fire him anyways, and it will cause riots.
I feel like, yeah. I mean,
Are you
yeah.
sure you weren't Operation Paper? Never mind.
Ik weiß
Alright.
nicht.
I feel like, look, I'm gonna just be frank. I feel like it is a bit ludicrous to even consider giving a $13 million pardon here to the two involved. I do find it a bit ludicrous.
I mean, that's like a weekend in Vegas we lose right there.
Yeah. I mean, that is fucking ludicrous. I mean, look, I'll give you a day, Crane, because I do trust your judgment. I feel like a lot of us in this room are leaning towards defaulting him, though.
Yeah, I think, honestly, I agree with both you guys. I'm happy to give Crane the day, because Crane is the one that's, you know, on the floor with this stuff, so.
Yeah. I think the thing is, I think like Christoph said, pardoning him is gonna lead to way. Either way, there's gonna be issues. I feel like, you know, any way we go, there's gonna be issues. You know.
Yeah.
Jawohl. We just have to choose the size of the issues.
Exactly, and I feel like there's gonna be a less sized issue if we get our money back, default, and then make sure we survey and watch closely to see what happens, because if the sheriff is compromised, like you're worried about, then our hand is a bit forced, is it not?
You know, we might be able to. I just had kind of a realization here. The current mayor, Mickey, is keen on installing. In fact, he submitted legislation to me about installing a external civilian oversight committee that would watch over PD for any corruption or any, you know, untoward actions. That would have some authority to issue, you know, punishments when the PD are incapable of regulating themselves. And maybe this would be a good app. Well, yeah, but when's the last time IA's done anything?
Just last week we were called in for IA.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah, I gotta have a meeting with that guy, Richard.
Which
Dark
one?
guy.
Dark? Oh, is he around again?
I mean, to be fair, just last week I found out that IA reported to us, so.
Yep, same.
Oh, interesting. Okay. But anyway, so, you know, there might be some work we can do there between IA and those people, and something to kind of monitor Pred, because God knows I'm not going to sit there and watch what Pred does every day, because I don't like the casino. So, you know, I think we can work on that. I really do need to go, though. I appreciate your guys' time.
Appreciate you, Crane.
And we'll talk in a day or so with what we come up with.
Yep, sounds good.
All right, look forward to it.
Thank y'all. Mr. Coyne, I do have a close contact with reps from Fast Loans because I just finished their docket a little bit ago. And they will be prepared to send you the information.
Well, I will call them myself. However, I will force them to do the work for me. There's no way I'm going through all those.
Yeah, perfect.
Oh shit! I was not expecting that.
All right, see you, gentlemen.
Take care, Crane.
All right. I'm going to bed. I feel sick.
All right. Well, I hope you feel better.
All right. Auf
All right.
Wiedersehen.
I feel like either way, by the way, any path we end up taking of the two options is going to lead to our hand being forced or some pretty sizable issues.
Yes.
Jawohl.
So, then we just need
We're
to
in
weigh
a
the
sticky
options
spot
there.
here.
Yeah, I think what Christoph said I kind of agree with. It's slightly delaying the inevitable.
Yeah.
So, all right. Toodles. I'm going to go to bed.
All right. Feel better.